Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roll Down a Teamfight Tactics podcast. Fresh from OCE regionals, watch parties, staying up late, cheering for our friends as they push towards the World Championships. I am joined by my co streamer, my watch party friend, my co host on this production that we have together, Sol. Welcome to the show.
To be here as always.
And guys, we have another returning guest, a man who, of course, if you are a Oceanic TFT Southeast Asian fan, you will know this man. He is an absolute wizard at TFT. He's so incredibly humble with his time and has agreed to come back and join us to recap the regional event that Riot do not let him participate in. It is Chaos. Keith, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you guys for having me.
Justice for SEA, but on to OCE regionals. Guys, we're going to talk about regionals first. It was on a previous patch, and we're going to come back later on and talk about what's coming up, basically. B-Patch, Worlds, the meta right now. First of all, though, we have to look back. So I'm going to come to you with a question initially. What were your thoughts on OCE regionals? Overall, how'd you feel?
An open question.
Hmm.
I loved it. I mean, I loved every second of it. I thought it was really exciting to see all these players that a lot of who which stream, a lot of who which I interact with because I'm a streamer myself, right? It's really cool to sort of see a lot of these storylines converge. Watch them really sort of battle it out, give it their all. Tears are being shed. There are moments of triumph for some, moments of despair for others, and it was a great weekend.
Oh, it's always hard when someone's favorite moment is the tears shed on the battlefield of teamfight tactics to really follow that up. I'd love to come to you, Keith, and ask you a little bit about your experience watching OCE regionals over last weekend.
Oh, that was actually a lot of emotions because I was rooting for the boys. Like they were like going through a lot of shit. So yeah, I was going through it with them. So it's crazy.
We all were. Everyone was going through it from the main broadcast to every single individual stream all over. I mean, I don't think I've seen such intense TFT sort of reactions to a game by game TFT basis in a long time. I'd love to sort of talk a little bit about the players that we had going into the event. Keith, you said, I'm rooting for the boys. I'm in the streams watching the boys every night. Talk to me a little bit about like what it's like to, I don't know, kind of backseat, like look over the shoulder of your friend as they're playing TFT at the highest level.
I mean, they're just playing the game, right? We learn from each other like all the time. So like seeing them like doing the things that I maybe taught them or you know they taught me and they do it on stage. I mean on like in the games. It's pretty nice. Uh there's like so much improvement as well that I've seen. So
Sol, similar question for you. Talk to me a little bit about coming into this event. I guess I want to know who I guess we should say we watched different povs of different players every night. Like, who were you really rooting for going into the event?
Question. Realistically, I'm always gonna be a bit biased, and I'm always gonna root for people that I know that I've interacted with. So I was really mostly rooting for like all the streamers out there. So like Angora, Esha, Kade, on that's TXC, which is a meme now, but yeah. Man, I'm probably missing some names, but like pretty much like that sort of crowd, right? Is definitely who I was rooting for. Maxi Von Riot, of course. Didn't even say his name. Yeah, Maxi Von Look. Shout out to Ari. Like, yeah, pretty much. If you play TFT, if you stream, we're rooting for you.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's really heartbreaking to watch somebody and they get so close and maybe they don't make it, or maybe they do make it. I want to ask a little bit about, first of all, we're going to start with just sort of a couple of sort of recaps of the event for a few players. I'd like to talk about, probably, obviously, Oceania's most let's say, popular pro player in Escher. I will say, the one that garners a lot of views, a lot of attention. Really funny guy, really clever, really creative. Sol, how Escher got really close. Talk to me a little bit about how you found watching Escher over the few days.
Oh man, yeah, he got heartbreakingly close, and his run was very, was very impressive as well for like how on on a knife's edge it was at times. He snuck into, was it day two at the 16th seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I believe he made day three fairly convincingly as well. But then yeah, like the way the day three played out, the point structure, like the points and everything, there was essentially like a three-way tie for top two, with Kade sort of trailing behind as well, also threatening to take that top two placement. Obviously, for those that don't know, there are two slots for OCE for Worlds, so top two of day three gets to go to Worlds. It was a very, very tense, pressure situation, right? And I mean, look, in terms of like game quality, right? I mean, I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna sit back and critique too much. I'm not gonna be chatting or anything. I think Escher played quite well. Obviously, like, mistakes were made in certain points, spots. You can always. I feel like TFT is a game where if you have infinite time, infinite information, like infinite time to like process all the probability, like the possibilities, all the different options. You can say like, oh, in this situation, you should do this, right? This is the right way to go about it. But we need to remember that like these are players in very high pressure situations. They don't get a lot of time to make these decisions. These decisions, you only get like 20, 30 seconds to make a choice. And that's where we see these sort of differences in people's play styles. Why they like why they tend towards the things they do, right? And so I think Escher has a play style that like lends itself very well to 20s. I've noticed, like, watching his games, he's a very, in my opinion, I think he's a very good sort of micro player. Like, in terms of like positioning, he'll be he'll definitely find the right spots. And there was a game in particular where he got given Future Sight 2, which gives you a Radiant Zephyr and lets you know who you're fighting next every single fight. And I felt like he played that like almost to perfection, and I was very, very impressed with his play there.
Yeah, a very good point, because a lot of TFT, of course, is very, we sort of generalize quite a lot with, this is what we know about TFT, and what we don't know about TFT is the uncontrollable factor, how someone's going to react to the given situation. But when we are given tournament choices, things like Shroud, Zephyr, Frozen Heart, these things all play a very significant factor in kind of the overall position of players in the lobby. Keith, I'd love to come to you, and it's, I mean, Kade, a guest who we will have on in a couple of weeks' time. So much love for you, Kade. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast with us in a couple of weeks. He got so close. Keith, I was wondering if you could sort of talk about your experience kind of watching him and how he played and what that was like.
I mean, the first time I kind of noticed Kade, he's just like a solo queue player on like ladder, right? And then he was just like sniping me on stream, and he's always in my chat. He's always emoting me. He's always using the Seraphine emote. I was like, this guy, this guy's so troll. And then the first time I like, he's always, me and him were always like top two in our games, and so we were just like trolling around. And then I think what was the tourney that the first tourney he played? I think, what was it?
Challenger series?
Challenger series?
I believe so.
Yeah, he just like completely choked in his first studies, and then he got like super like demoralized. It's like, oh, maybe this guy isn't that good because I thought he was like really good, but like and then I started getting to know him, and like he had like a lot of potential. So I kind of we kind of like just built our like friendship off that. So uh in the 3 days that he played, it was like pretty insane how much uh he improved every single day. So I'm really fucking happy for him. Really proud of him.
I'd love to bring up something that happened on broadcast where Sleppy, one of the commentators, talked about Kade being tilt proof. And I found that quite funny at the time. You know, we were sort of chatting in our little group call, sort of talking about the fact that Kade like turned his stream off after 2 games of one day of the tournament, but came back really, really well every single day. I mean, literally as every day was going on, he was playing better and better. Like we did a big, you know, I did like 6 hours of VOD review for Kade, going over all of his games because, of course, he was gonna be on this evening's podcast. And basically, I mean, the differences in like composure and predictability and just everything just went up every single game from game on game on game. And some of that, of course, plays into the varying factor of what you get given during your games. Of course, we can only mitigate so much when we do that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But one of the things that Kade, and I hope you don't mind me saying if you are out there listening, is, you know, you should be very proud of yourself. You should be very proud of how well you did. It's really heartbreaking to get so close, but you know, players that have noticeable improvements during events like that, you know, those are the players that will come back stronger and stronger every time. I it's really hard to go from heartbreaking to heartbreaking. It really is a podcast that you know, when recapping this, I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, we're gonna have to talk about some really fucking unfortunate scenarios. And I really want to talk about Angora and Angora's games. I mean, I'd love to you, Keith, to open up with how you felt watching Angora over the first 2 days of the event.
I honestly think he played like really well in those games. Just sad that like sometimes there's a lot of mod dogging going on. So
At the highest level, you will
his
always.
games were so hard. His games were like so hard to play. Like if I would have played those games, I wouldn't have played like I would have placed like as high as he did. I would have like just gone eighth every game. So he played really fucking well.
I'd love
Sadly,
to.
it's just not
Yeah.
enough, you know.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like just so heartbreakingly close. I was wondering if maybe you could expand a little bit on what you mean when you say like playing a game from a hard scenario. I know that we're talking like sort of the very highest level of TFT, but there will be people out there, you know, that are newer players or players that are learning about TFT. So I was wondering in your own words, like how you describe like rewatching Angora or watching Angora's games and thinking like, fuck man, even I wouldn't have done that. Like I would have done worse doing like in this scenario. Like I don't know if I would have made this choice and he's got a better result than I would have out of this kind of thing.
Well, like there's like so many things, right? There's like items, there's like units to pick up, and all these like unit RNG, fight RNG. Like basically, it was like the low average of everything that he like rolled. So
Yeah.
he did what he did what he did with the things that he have. So it's like hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's like really fucking hard to explain.
No, Sol, I mean, I might come to you and ask you if you potentially have a way that you would describe that kind of scenario, potentially. I'd love to kind of
sure.
crowdsource
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll just quickly comment that, like, yeah, I mean, going into the 20, Angora was like my favorite, making it to the top 2 in the final day. I think he was the favorite of a lot of people. I think like it's pretty undisputed that Angora is the best player in just the whole region. and I think like if not the best, like most people at least have him like top 2, like top 3. Like it's maybe there's a few players up for that, but at least in my books, like I think is the best player in the
He
region.
is the best player.
Yeah.
Period.
So I think that so that's gotta be like it's important to sort of frame the discussion, which like where I'm going to next, which is where I feel like that from my point of view, from the way I saw it, the I watched like his spots. I definitely feel like he played quite well in a lot of spots that would have been otherwise very difficult. I do, however, felt that there were spots where he basically put himself into a position where it was very possible for him to get very like more affected by like low roll, like more hit harder by low roll. In particular, there were quite a few games where he played Warwick reroll, and as is the case with any reroll comp, you gotta sort of ratchet up like the level of variance essentially gets ratcheted up quite high because your board ends up being quite inflexible. You have to play around the specific unit. If you don't hit the units, well, too bad. Like your board doesn't do anything, right? Hit the units, like good. It's not saying that like the decision to play this comp was incorrect or anything. Like that would be results oriented, right? But like you need to acknowledge that like you are opening yourself up to being unlucky. And now the thing is that I personally felt when I was watching this, I was somewhat disappointed because I feel like Angora is one of the best flex players, if not the best flex player in the entire server. So what that's going, and so I'm gonna like use that to sort of answer the question of like what does it mean to play well in these situations? What is a hard game? What is an easy, right? So the way I believe that like we can sort of frame it, think about it, is we can think of TFT as a game of essentially multiple different sort of like trees of decisions, multiple different lines that you take that all branch out into like tons of different decisions. And so what makes a player like good, right, in this game? A player that is like truly good in this game is somebody that can see all the different trees and be able to pick the best tree out of those options, if that makes sense. And so that's what like essentially a hard game is. A hard game is a game where you're given multiple different trees for you to potentially go down, and sometimes midway going through a tree, you have to pivot and move into a completely separate tree, if that makes sense. There are spots where basically like there are decisions that a weaker player would completely like not see, that a better player, somebody like Angora, will be able to identify, right, and will be able to go down that lane. So yeah, at the risk of rambling too much, that's what I believe distinguishes sort of the better player, the good players, from the truly great players.
Yeah, good answer. Good answer. I think I mean I have total agreement with both of you. I think Angora is the best player on the server. I don't even think it's particularly close. Watching him play the game is to like I don't know. I'd like to use a sports analogy where there are professional sportsmen who spend their lives playing and training, and someone with just like this innate ability just blows you out of the water compared to this guy who works really hard and trains really hard and is still a professional player. There's like levels to these things. As Kendrick Lamar would say, there are levels. I really apologize for that. I don't know why I would say that during this podcast.
That's terrible.
But one of the most important things when it comes to talking about skill is like the levels of like just sheer competitiveness. And when people like me watch Angora, I just think like, how does he do that sometimes, and I really feel that when he plays very flexibly, and I like watching that is such a treat. And I'm very sad that we won't get to see Angora at set 6.5 World Championships as an OCE representative, but that doesn't mean that he won't be a Worlds representative for OCE. I feel like it's only a matter of time for these kind of things. From talking about our fallen comrades, our friends, the people who got so close but didn't quite make it, it's time to talk about TXE, K&P, the two really fantastic players who will be representing us at the World Championships. Sol, Ron is our friend, so we're allowed to call him Ron. not TXE. I would absolutely love your thoughts, first of all, on Ron and his addition to the representatives of OCE over the last few years.
Yeah, I watched a lot of his run, and I mean, look, I was obviously very very impressed with his play, right? I think that like he's definitely a player that's been there on the scene for like a decent amount of time now, quite a while now, but not quite sort of, I guess, in everyone's like spotlight, if that makes sense, right? Like I think like he's somebody that most people have heard of, that most people know, but like maybe haven't paid too much attention to like his actual like play, if that makes sense. So like that's just like a long way in fancy way of saying that like I was quite impressed with his run. I didn't think that he played flawlessly or anything. I think that there were obviously mistakes made, but hey, look, I feel like I keep preaching this in like, especially in high pressure tournament situations. Nobody's gonna play perfectly. Like you can't expect them to make like zero mistakes. You can't expect them to see every single possible decision tree. And yeah, I think he absolutely deserves every bit of every bit of qualification, every bit of respect. You could like meme and say like, oh, it was augmentative. Oh, he only got there because of Tiny Titans, which propelled him to a top 4. By the way, that game was insane. But I will say that like that would be like, if anyone who says that, you would be overlooking like the entire like 98% of the tournament that he had to play like very well to even like get into that spot, right? Where he had the chance to sort of high roll. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than like I feel like he played quite solid. He knew the boards. He was like, he understood how to play the boards that he was going to play. He rolled when he needed to, and obviously he got there, right? So yeah, and purely talked about Ron, but so there's also KM. Don't know how to pronounce his name. KNPNGS RS, whatever it is.
I think we'll stick with
But,
KNP for now.
KNP, let's do KNP. Yeah, he
KNP.
also like I can't comment too much other than like I mostly watched other perspectives, but he was definitely a menace. He was definitely a menace in the entire tourney. Like day 3, definitely like there was some high roll. As I said earlier with Ron, right? Like to purely say things like, oh, this person only got there because they high rolled this, you would be completely overlooking all the other days that they had to play very well to even get to this spot, right? Like you could say that like, oh, 6 games is enough sample size. Well, the thing about these regional tourneys, these 3-day events, is that like it's not 6 games you're playing 18 games, and if you don't play out of your mind in a sample size of 18, well, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Like no one's locking their way to a top 2, to a top 2 out of a especially in a field as strong as it was for regionals.
Agreed. Totally agree with you. Keith, the Oceanic representatives from your perspective.
Man, I didn't really watch any of their POVs, not gonna lie. But both of them placed really highly in the all 3 days, right? I think
Yeah.
KMP was like third 1-1 in terms of placement. Like in all 3 days. So that's fucking insane. I've seen it on ladder, but it's been a while since I played those, so but he's been a beast, honestly. I didn't expect him to do that well in this tourney because I just didn't really know much about him, right? I don't think many people did, right? But he had a game plan, he stuck with it, and he kind of smurfed on everyone. So yeah. And then Ron, I know him as like a very like calculative guy. I think the first time, like one of the first like conversations I had with him was like back in set what was it? Set 3? No, set 5, I think. It was Aphelios. He was like calculating the BIS Aphelios. It was like Titans, IE, Rageblade, or something. It was like you need those 3 items or you can't play Aphelios or something. And I was like he was on my stream and I was like, okay, bet, I'm gonna try it. And I went 8th. It's like I can't tell this guy's serious or not. But like I think he played pretty well. he also plays pretty well in I think what did he place in those 3 days? I think it was middle of the pack day one.
It was middle
Or
of
like
pack day
oh,
one.
no, it
yeah.
was top. Or was it top 2?
I think it was something like two.
I don't have the scores
6-2?
off the top of my head.
2-6-2 or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, he still played well. Like you can't say he didn't play well, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel like I personally didn't expect him to make it, because I was just focused on like Angora and Kade, but he pulled off all his games, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge congratulations to the two of them, and guys, like I'll speak for myself personally. We do a lot of preparing for this podcast in different ways, watching VODs, talking to people about different things, making sure that we're all up to date. I spent the last 3 days looking for literally any information about KNP, like that I could find, and that was really difficult. It was like really difficult to find information aside from like some solo queue games and obviously a really impressive tournament performance. So coming out of a big tournament like that, you cannot ever say that I mean, unless like every single augment they took or something was the highest win percentage augment at every time, and that they just won every lobby because of it. Like they deserve to be where they are, and a big congratulations to the two of them. They're going to make Oceania very proud, just like our previous representatives have as well, and a really good luck to them. I would like to finish off talking about regionals now by talking to you guys a little bit about the production of it all. In person, 4 casters for a really great event, separated by quite a few long breaks overall. I think every day got longer than the previous day, which is understandable sometimes in tournaments. And I know Sol, for example, he and I have probably been in very similar situations where you're playing in a card game tournament, and after 4 rounds of the card game tournament, it's been 6.5 hours instead of 3 hours. And you're sitting there and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You haven't even had a halfway break yet. So these kind of things are very common when it comes to events like
that's why
this.
you always bring the tactical trail mix and the tactical apples.
Yeah,
that gets you through the day.
Exactly.
That's the hack.
Exactly. So I just wanted to know from your guys' perspective, like, are you watching the tournament broadcast? We're obviously watching our friends all at once. Like, Sola, I'll start with you. What did you think about the broadcast experience overall?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really well done. Especially for like, look, let's face it. Here in OC, we're a tiny speck compared to other regions, rest of the world, right? Compare us to like giants like NA, China, like EU. We're very, very small. So, the fact that we were able to, the fact that they were able, like, Order got together a whole like broadcast team in studio in person. Considering COVID and everything that's happened, right? It was really great to see people interacting, like casters, analysts interacting with each other in the flesh. It was really, really great to see. Yeah, I mean, shout out to the whole team. I think they did a really, really great job.
Yeah, totally agree. Keith, your thoughts on sort of the overall experience of the broadcast?
Yeah, I watched main broadcast a bit, and I love Frosty, right? So I think he did a fantastic
Yeah.
job. Ducky was really good as well. And then Sleppy, she I watched her like all 3 days, and she improved a lot in terms of being comfortable in front of the camera. So I'm very happy for her. Hopefully we get to see more of her. And yeah, I think it was a pretty fun event to watch.
Totally agree. And that last guy needs to take his shoes off the couch. Am I right, fellas?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know what I'm talking about if you're out there. Take your shoes off that damn couch. Guys, that's pretty much, I mean, look, regionals, it's a really big event. A huge congratulations to Ron and to KMP for making it this far. It's a totally deserved feat, and they're going to do us really proud. I think that's a really good place to leave it. You know, a big congratulations to everybody who played, and you know what, the closer you were this year and you didn't make it, the more drive I hope that gives all competitors to come back strong next year. And realistically, what else can we say aside from justice for SCA as well? You know, we want Southeast Asian representatives at our World Championships.
That chest.
Guys, we're going to talk about the current meta now of teamfight tactics. Cannot believe it. There is still a patch going on. In fact, we're coming up towards the World Championships. So I'm going to start with Soul and ask you, a man who was late to this podcast because he was playing 6 Arcanist Jinx 2, what your thoughts are on the current meta.
I mean, look, it's no secret. This current pass is not that balanced. To be honest, this might be a semi-hot take. I don't think it's that hot of a take. I don't actually think the reason this patch is like not very good is purely because of like Hextech and Sivir. I think the bigger problem lies in the fact that like an entire tree being AD was almost completely like nerfed / gutted across the board, and then like everything else was untouched on the other side, so that like the way you sort of ideally really want to approach the game right now is mostly just via like an AP tree. There are a lot of things you can actually flex in that sort of space. Yeah, that's the general sort of play to play the patch, I would say. It's not quite a 2020 Sivir patch, and that's the only thing you can play. It's also definitely one of the more inflexible patches. There are a lot of units, like namely Irelia, that just don't feel very good to play, and have been hit a bit too hard with the Nerf hammer.
Yeah, Keith, your thoughts on sort of the current patch and how we're looking as we sort of head up towards the World Championships.
Okay, so I only have let's see, how many games do I have? I have 5 games. So the first game I played off the patch, I went 8th. I just FF. Because I had like, there was triple Sivir and triple Arcanist and 2 Warwick players. I just went 8th. And then the next game, I didn't get any balls, and I still managed top 4. That's fine. I just didn't want to play Sivir, Warwick, or like Lucian. I just wanted to try like other things because I'm not a very like, I don't really play meta basically. I always like to try to find counters to the meta, and so I've been playing a lot of Zeri. Zeri, Kai'Sa. So I'm just having fun. They're actually lit. What else? Fuck Sivir. That shit's cringe. Holy shit.
How about Warwick? Elephant in the room. Warwick, your guys' thoughts?
The dog in the room.
Delete it. Get out of my sight. Just kidding. Kind of. Not really.
Warwick's bench too.
Look, my answer is that there's always going to be some degenerate reroll comp that you can play in the game. There's always going to be something that's out of line, you know? Last set, it was Katarina. Set, it's Warwick. I mean, there's... The names change, but will always be there'll always be someone to assume that throne of cringe. I mean, look, you can go back to as early as set 5. It was LeBlanc. So and then set 5.5 it was just Thano. That is almost an inevitability in the game. There's always going to be some degenerate reroll comp that is like probably out of line, right? But yeah, I will say that Warwick is in a frustrating spot, particularly, and I think it's particularly because some of the traditional counters to Warwick, like Aurelia, like Draven, have had their base AD nerfed. They've had the units around them nerfed. So a lot of these sort of traditional answers to that board don't really exist anymore and don't really function well in the meta. So yeah, it definitely doesn't feel too great right now.
Agreed. Sharpshooter Nidalee, Zaya with Shiv. Sorry, I just wanted to keep going on your thing from before.
Yeah. There's always some degenerate real comp. Whether it be 1s, 2s, or 3s, there's always something. Always
Predator Cogmore. Sorry, stop now. But no, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. There's always a reroll comp that's really good. Guys, as it so happens, a couple of hours before the podcast, we get notes that we are actually getting a B patch, a patch that will last us through until the World Championships. So I think it would be helpful if we sort of went through it and talked about some of the changes that we're expecting to see from it. I'd like to start, first of all, with the singular augment change that they're making, and that's nerfing the damage reduction of assassins from Smoke Bomb. Keith, Smoke Bomb, very high, sort of high win percentage gold augment, very, very good. Where do your thoughts stand with assassins right now? Twitch and Talon specifically.
I don't really play them that much, and it's also like really easy to play. Honestly, it's like up there is like what DJ calls. I mean, Sinzo have always, people have always have a love-hate relationship with Sins, right? Either you only play Sins, or you never ever play Sins at all, right?
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
yeah, I like the Smoke Bomb nerf. Also, I'm looking at tactics.tools, and it's like the highest gold win rate augment. So
yeah, makes sense. I'm a never sinner. I would not play Sins. I would never do
I don't
such
sin
a thing.
either. You can look at my match history; it's clean. Last set
Yeah,
though,
we're all clean.
I used to, yeah.
Last set I played a lot of sins, but this set my match history is clean. I'm pure.
Yeah, I've been clean since Darkstar Shaco. Really, since then I'm reformed. Twitch gets a nerf. Next up, additional mana to cast. Soul. We sort of just started talking a little bit about these kind of things. Twitch, to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen all that much of it. What are your thoughts on?
Feels weird. Really weird. I remember reading the patch notes earlier, obviously for prep. I was very confused with this change personally. I feel like there's something I don't know. Maybe there's something in the data that I don't know. But considering that innovators across the board were nerfed last patch, Twitch had his base AD nerfed along with everything else. Twitch was already a unit with quite bad base AD, so that base AD nerf compounds everything. It's weird because I mean, I don't think Twitch reroll is particularly out of line. I've seen it top 4 some lobbies, but I've also seen it go 8th quite a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know about this one. I feel like there's something they know that the devs know that I don't know.
I think Twitch is pretty bad. Like even even before this. Unless you get Tiny Titans.
It's your Tiny Titans.
Yeah. Look, it's a weird one because like they have made a real big point about nerfing like Twitch 1 and Twitch 2 especially as well. Like you used to earlier patches of this set, you could actually item carry Twitch 2 for a good portion of the game, as with some other 1-cost units like Ezreal and Caitlyn's still good and those kind of things, but putting items on Twitch now feels really bad. Like really, really
feels
bad.
really bad. It feels
really, I don't buy that unit, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It was definitely a unit back in set 6, especially back in the Urgot days, that was just a very solid like open.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Right?
It was really good item holder.
This set he's always felt entirely as specifically a reroll unit, like he's 1-star and 2-star version are just god awful. Spikes at 3, but he needs to scale with frontline. Now this change just makes it so that he's 1 and 2-star just are even more god awful. The reroll comp is worse, so there's no point holding Twitches anymore. So that's a public service announcement. Don't buy this unit in your shop. You see him, and immediately sell him back.
Yeah.
Buy this unit. He's gonna be bad for a really long time.
Buy it, then sell it, so other people have a higher chance to get it in their next shop. Grief them instead. Yeah, interesting one. We've got 2 nerfs to Talon. It's noted on the B patch notes that Talon was actually doing more damage at 2-star than he was supposed to on live. So we've got a 75 spell damage nerf and a bleed nerf to Talon. I don't play this unit. There are players on the Oceanic server that definitely do. And sometimes, Talon is actually a really good unit on stage 2, just in general, because it basically always kills a backline unit.
It's a metabolic accelerator.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 health every round, exactly. Keith, thoughts on this change to Talon specifically?
So I think in all the games that I played today, there was one Talon player every game, and they all top 4'd. Maybe it's because like it was intended to do more damage, so they like save a lot more HP, and then they just they're just really high HP compared to the rest of the lobby. So I'm glad he's getting a bit like touched. I don't really like playing around it, cause like how assassins like when they jump, sometimes they just go one big round and they just go there carry, even though you have units in the back that what's the word that try to bait them, and
Yeah.
they just walk off. So yeah, I'm down for more sim nerfs for sure.
Agreed. The dog in the room, as Keith beautifully put earlier, Warwick gets a 0.05 attack speed nerf. Interestingly enough, this is a relatively reasonable change, more than you would think it is by looking at such a small number. This changes his ramp timing like quite significantly for such a relatively small nerf. So I'm going to ask you if you think they should have done more to stop Warwick.
Oh, spoiler alert! There's more.
Yes.
Ha! There's more, but
specifically to the unit itself. I'll ask you about the unit itself.
Oh, no, I'm actually here's the thing. I'm actually kind of okay with it because like, I think like, quote unquote utility Warwick should still exist. Like, if you just happen to hit a Warwick 2 naturally in your shops and you're playing flex, you should be able to put him on your board and not just feel like he's a complete waste of space. So I'm all for, like, in general, I'm like all for not just completely gutting units, like I say I say things as a meme, like, delete this unit from the game, but in reality, deleting units from the game is very bad for game health in general. Like, we already discussed this with Twitch. It feels so bad to get offered shops with units that just you can't buy because the game just like they're
They're
not
just
very
bad.
Like they're just terrible. Like, they're just objectively badly balanced and they're just way too weak, right? No one feels good about that. So, I prefer their current philosophy. I would rather them hit multiple other areas that make it strong rather than just cutting the one thing that's strong, So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting take there. We will come on to multiple Warwick nerfs later on in these patch notes. Keith, the Lucian player, the man who has been playing 6-arc Lucian for a long time, invented it, as he said in the pre-call. Spell damage nerf to Lucian. I think this is relatively significant to get him back into line.
Yeah, he's just doing way too much damage now, I think. He just like the fight ends in like 10 seconds. If you've seen like streamers play it, like Milk, he was like spamming it the other day. He was just one tapping everything. So I think it's good. I think it's good enough. Yeah.
On a lot of B patches, we don't get a lot of buffs. Mostly because to trigger a B patch, there has to be some really broken shit that's annoying everybody. So we don't often get many buffs, but we do have 2 buffs. One small, and that is sort of a revert of Draven's AD nerf from a previous patch. Sol, do you think this is going to bring Draven back into sort of... He's already reasonably popular. I will say that, like, you actually see Draven relatively often on this current patch.
I think Draven's weak on this patch.
Draven's definitely weak on this patch because of the AD nerfs, and I think that like this AD buff is gonna help a lot. You have to
Yeah.
remember that, like, I think what 5. I'm gonna get the math wrong, but I think 580 translates to 1480. I think at star up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that; it's also the nature of Draven's spell itself, which further multiplies the AD. Right? He's also
Yeah.
He's also a front to back carry that needs to chew through the front line first, and he's also a challenger who scales off resets. So like the smallest bit, is the difference between making a reset or not, right? So I think that this is going to help him a lot, and I think it's a much needed buff. Because yeah, I think the AD trade needs a lot of help.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about Jhin. We talk a lot on this podcast about Jhin, just how to play it, why it's good, when it's good, how to make it work. 20 lower mana for Jhin, allowing him to cast way quicker than on current patch. Keith, what are your thoughts on a change like this?
I think this is like gonna make Jin really fucking good.
I think
This
the
is
same thing.
this is like insane. I think I saw something about it going to 60 instead. Not sure. Uh
50
like
feels
in
low.
lobby too.
50 feels really, really low.
Also
Especially because he, yeah.
with
Okay,
blue buff he instacasts.
Yeah. I
Which
mean,
is
you're playing
cool.
him with scholars a lot of time as well, so you don't even need blue buff.
Yeah. I just like it's like it's an option, It's
Yeah.
cool. But 50 is like a bit too low, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
But I'm
Very...
also glad Jin's getting some love, because people haven't really been playing him at all. In the set, like everybody's like Sivir Draven. That's the backline 80 that they want, that kind of thing, right? Like full cost. So I'm glad he's getting buffs, but this might be too big.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we get a pre-Worlds patch, but I doubt it at this point because this is
I
probably...
think Worlds is on 12.7, 12.7B.
Worlds is actually yeah. I don't think this is Worlds patch. I'm pretty certain.
Oh,
It's not.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
12.7B
There should be one
is
more. There
Worlds
should be one more.
patch. Yeah.
So we get one patch, and we maybe will get a B patch for that patch.
It should be a B patch, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good because we've talked it a bit, but like I don't think the game's in a great state at the moment.
I
think they
don't
need-
want this to be a Worlds patch, man.
Yeah. I think they need a bit more time. They definitely need a bit more time to bring some of these 80 units up to being good, and then I think we'll have a good.
I think this is a good step.
Yeah. We certainly need more than a little page to kind of fix a lot of the problems that are going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Sivir, or as Keith called it, fuck that unit, is getting an attack speed, a spell attack speed nerf. It's not a lot, to be honest. This feels like one step towards another nerf coming up, basically. I would say that this isn't going to change Sivir that much. Sol, your thoughts?
Same thing, like as I said earlier, right? Like I think that this is the right way to go about nerfing units. I'd rather see small pushes in multiple levers rather than a big giant polarizing push. I think any more significant percentage nerf on this spell attack speed would have just completely gutted the unit. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I don't know what else to say. Sivir's obviously a very, very strong unit. Needs to be brought more in line, but she still needs to be she's a full cost carry. She should be good, right? So yeah.
Keith?
Yeah. I mean, there's hex tech nerfs as well, right? So
Yeah.
this is for like we can just go about it again when we reach the hex tech again. But it's good. Yeah, Sivir one's like too strong right now.
Sure.
So yeah.
Arcanists. Definitely a significant part of the meta right now. Team AP is going down at 8, and total AP for Arcanists is going down at 4, 6, and 8. This is again, Sol, of course you talk about this a lot, incremental pushes in the right direction. I think that we will potentially be seeing some specific unit nerfs coming up after in the future, but this is a good way to sort of see whether or not Arcanists still dominate even after a little nudge at nerfing them.
Sure. I mean, I will say that it has been nice and almost. I mean, look, I agree that currently the win rate's too high. They're a bit too dominant, but look, it has been nice for AP to finally get its sort of time in the sun, its time to shine. It definitely has felt like a heavily sort of predominant AD focused set for sure. Even just down to the set design itself, like there are far more AD scaling champions in the pool compared to AP scaling champions. So I mean, look, I obviously, you know, anyone that has been playing ladder, AP is too strong. You know, it's not even just Arcanist. It's more like it's more about what the Arcanist buff also enables you to play, like the other units that are AP but aren't Arcanist, right? But I just want to get it in that it has been nice to, you know, for AP units to actually be good now. Instead of you just being like, oh, I'm not buying this Vex, or I'm not buying this, you know, Lucian, I'm not buying this, blah 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 blah. You know, I just want to buy, I just want to play my strikers, my bruisers, and that's it. So yeah.
I agree. Even going back to set 6, there weren't very many AP options. Like Lux, we talked about Lux so much when set 6 was out about how bad it was and how annoying it was to play. So I agree that it's nice to have a bit of polarization, like AD being really good, but also AP being really good as well. Let's see where that ends up. I'm going to talk about Challenger and Chemtech together because it really affects Warwick and only Warwick. Aside from Robin at NA Regionals, nobody's really playing Tryndamere. So a overall nerf to 4 Challenger, 6 Challenger, and a damage reduction nerf by 5% on Chemtech. That's probably the biggest one, I would have to say, is the 5% damage reduction nerf. Keith, we talked about the singular Warwick nerf. Is this enough to prevent Warwick from being prevalent?
I mean, this is pretty. I think it's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes it so like you know, everybody, like all the Warwick players just roll down at level 6, 3-2, Warwick 2, Quinn 2, Camille 2, Zach, Trin, and then, you know, I think this will like make the board not win streak like super hard, right? Because usually once you get that board, you just you don't have to worry about stage 3, you don't have to worry early stage 4, and then yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. Let's we've sort of come back around to Sivir. Hextech magic damage is getting a nerf at 6, and the shield is getting a nerf at 4, 6, and 8. Keith, you were saying that you had sort of more to say on this. I imagine that a lot of it is probably surrounding vertical Hextech specifically. Yeah, talk
I mean,
to us.
I think the shield is like way too much right now. So I like the shield nerf a lot. Like if you get first aid kit, that you just get free first when you play Hextech, because the shield is insane. I think the shield is actually more of the problem than the magic damage it gives from vertical Hextech. So I'm glad the shield's taking like a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I agree. Remember when it was 600 for 6 on the first patch? Is that right? It was 600 shield for 6 Hextech.
Yeah.
The good old days. Yeah, no, totally agree with you. I think Sivir 1 and like just the like 1 Sivir and 6 Hextech, right? Like when you put that together, like you can have it as early as like 3-5 a lot of the time. Like fucking 2 people in the lobby have 6 Hextech.
Yeah, if you hit Sivir, 6 Hextech, you're chilling. Just
You know.
1 2-star frontline or like alley 1. The rest of your board's 1-star, it doesn't matter.
It really just like snowballs way out of control. So I think this is a good way to sort of put it back into line. You're not just going to randomly start taking 15 every round from a Hextech player now. I don't think.
Yeah. It's a really big nerf, I think. So
yeah.
That's good.
I also expect that more Hextech nerfs will be on the horizon. I do think that they will target Alistair probably lowering his
Oh, I think
max.
Alistar is bugged.
But that unit's AI is yeah, I don't know what's wrong
Weird.
with it. It is
No. As in
oh
like
oh
there's a mana bug with Ellie.
oh okay, never mind.
He's like
I heard
gaining
about
mana
okay, I
and he
heard of a
shouldn't.
bug. I didn't know it was a mana bug.
He's gaining like it's good for like it's good for people who play Ellie because he's gaining more mana. Like
Ah,
he's
I see.
like sometimes you see Ellie one cast twice with no items. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Now I'm starting to think about it. I'm trying to think that last time I decided to DJ and play Siva. No, that's not costed a lot, you know. That's the reason.
Yeah. And finally, there's a Merc bug fix in this patch notes.
And that's in double up.
And it's for double up.
Double up.
So it doesn't really
affect
matter.
us.
You know, of course, when we had Keith on the podcast initially, it was a double up episode. So in the end, doesn't everything just come full circle? I would like, since we've got you back on the podcast, Keith, before we sort of go to question time and wrap up the podcast, I'd love to hear like how, you know, we had you on the podcast. You said to us, you guys are going to be the best duo in the world. Obviously, then they then wouldn't let you compete in the event. Like, I don't want to bring up like painful memories, but I want to ask you a little bit about like the experience of playing like high elo double up with Jose and playing those kind of games. How was it for you? You know, it's something that I've been waiting to ask you to have you back on the podcast.
It was really fun when we actually played those like high elo lobbies, because I think like a couple of the games where like everybody was like, exactly like 1 HP, so two people could die and like it'd just be top two. I'm pretty sure. So that was really fun. But we haven't played double up like for months, so haven't really touched it. Hopefully, uh, you know, uh, maybe it's at 7. If the set's good, and if they have custom double up lobbies, they probably have more like uh double up tournaments, and maybe we can play.
Yeah, I like that. You know, you guys talked a little bit about on that podcast. I actually went back and listened to it before this episode. You know, you guys were talking about the mechanics and things like that. Did you find it, because they're obviously going to take it away? They've already said that they're going to take it away and bring it back later. How did you find the mechanics of double up, being able to give items, being able to swap champions and things like that? Was it satisfying?
Yeah, it was fun. Like I mean, I think it was still pretty like unbalanced because it was like everybody could just get like a free 3-star 4 class, or like it's a bit too unbalanced. But I think it was fun. Like just playing with someone else, like both of you helping each other fix your boards, uh that kind of thing. It's fun.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. It'd be fun to ask Jose the same question when we get him back on the podcast. Guys, we don't have too much. We don't have too much else to talk about. We wanted to do a nice big recap on OCE regionals. This is going to be the time where we sort of thank everybody for listening and ask for some questions from Twitch chat. And I will just say, while we are waiting, guys, if you do have questions for any of us, and specifically for Keith, our lovely guest, to put them in the Twitch chat now. And guys, if you are listening to this on the podcast feed, from now on, we will be doing questions solely through our Discord. So if you want to join the Discord and ask questions for upcoming episodes, you can. The links are always in the description. And the same goes for anybody that's listening live. And I know we do get a lot of great live questions. Just from now on, to help with sort of time management of the episode, we're going to just save them for Discord and go from there. So if anybody's got any questions for any of us, please let us know. Otherwise, we're getting towards the end of the episode. All right, we have a question from Dark Lord asking, what game are you the best at? And I would like to say, first of all, that Keith is the best at TFT.
Patches.
I would say that I was a better Pokemon trading card game player than I am TFT player. But it's close. I haven't been to Worlds for TFT, but I have for Pokemon several times. So
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I never got to that level of Magic, but I was gonna say for me it's definitely like but in form, and when I was in form, it's definitely Magic the Gathering. Yeah, didn't get to Worlds, but I got to the Pro Tour, which is pretty good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I think this is what happens when we get to the end of these kind of episodes. We may get some silly questions. I guess the only other thing I'd like to know from Keith specifically is what you've got coming up next. We talked a little bit in the pre-show about what you're playing at the moment, or what you're doing. What's coming up for you on stream? Will you be continuing to play TFT? Maybe branch out a little bit?
We'll see. Cause like B patch, you never know what's gonna happen, right? Cause all the Silver Forces, all the Warwick Forces, all the Archbishop players, like this thing just targeted all of them, right?
Yeah.
So uh I'm definitely gonna play a lot of TFT still. Just waiting for like the B patch to go live. So yeah, probably be streaming every weekday.
Nice. And Soul, I mean, you are a TFT streamer again. You've started playing TFT on stream instead of
Yeah.
Elden Ring. Is the passion there for you to be grinding out TFT right now?
It's coming back. You know, I think it's always like that. A lot of people always get really inspired from watching things like regionals, soon to be worlds. Right? I think that for sure. Yeah, I think that I mean, if at least my immediate goal is to probably try to make an actual run on ladder, because this is the time of the season, the set, that no one like all the full sweats aren't really playing ladder anymore. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like the lobbies are a lot softer. So yeah, I might try to make a actual run on ladder. Um, in general though, it has really inspired me to actually try to compete because I mean, look, I love competition in anything. I have a massive history of just competing in anything that I can compete in. So TFT is no exception.
Same.
Nice.
Justice for C.
Justice for SEA. Look, guys, we got a question from the Twitch chat that I actually don't think is appropriate. After being made aware of something going on in the chat. However, I will say, here's my question that I'm going to ask before we end off this episode. Who's everybody's favorite character from Arcane? I'll start with you, Sol.
Favorite character from Arcane. You know what? I think this is gonna be a really unpopular answer, and I don't know why he's like not liked. But my favorite character is probably Jace. I like Jace a lot. I feel like his character arc. I feel like his character arc was very human. It was very relatable. Like he fucking he does some dumb shit, makes some mistakes. That's just being a human, you know, in person. So, yeah, I like Jace.
Keith, please answer my horrible questions so we can get out of here.
I think if anybody has like watched my stream, they probably know all my what's the word, the alerts are Echo. All the my picture when I don't have cam on is Echo pointing the middle finger. I always love that champ. I'm so happy that it was an Arcane. So yeah, it's Echo for sure. Yeah.
Good choice. My answer is Heimerdinger, and now I won't explain why. Guys, thank you for listening to the Roll Down podcast this week.
I can't.
My name is Cutler, and of course, we stream this live every other week. Stay tuned for the post episode when we reveal who's coming on next week. We have already revealed it, but it is very important, of course, that you stick around to hear it again. You can find me on Twitter at CutlerTFT, and a big thank you, most importantly, to my co-host Sol for joining us. Sol, thank you very much for being here. Where can people find you?
Great to have been here as always. Yeah, Sol_TFT at Twitch. And yeah, my Twitter handle's the same if you want to follow that as well.
Thank you. And from our very special guest, Keith, thank you once again for joining us. It's it's been a pleasure to have you back on the show, and of course, you're always welcome. And I'd just like to let you tell people where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Chaos TFT on Twitch and on Twitter, and I stream like every weekday most of the time. And yeah.
Great. All right, guys. Well, that is the end of the podcast. So thank you very much for being here on behalf of myself and everyone. You've been listening to the Roll Down TFT podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.